2, Song of Trust in God Alone. To the leader, according to Judith, a Psalm of David. For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. How long will you assail a person? Will you batter your victim? All of you, as you would a leaning wall, a tottering fence. Their only plan is to bring down a person of prominence. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. For God alone my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my deliverance and my honor. My mighty rock, my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts before him. God is our refuge for us. Those of lowest estate are but breath. Those of high estate are delusion. In the balances they go up. They are together lighter than a breath. Put no confidence in extortion, and set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. Once God has spoken, twice have I heard this, that the power belongs to God, and steadfast love belongs to you, O Lord, for you repay to all according to their work.
Hi, my name is Maddie Message. I'm going into the 9th grade at Jessieville High School, and I've been a part of our wonderful youth group for 2 years now. I'm very pleased to bring you our message today, and it was all based on the rag skit that we just performed. So now I'd like you all to think, what are some of the rags in your life? We all know rags by different names. Some of us call them burdens, or a heavy load, our crosses to bear, baggage. Speaking of baggage, we heard a great story. I have heard a great story about baggage, and I love it a bunch. So this year, when we went to Veritas, which is the largest event we attend with our youth group, the speaker told us a very funny story about baggage. It's about a lady in New York who she just moved there, and she was in her apartment one day when her neighbor next door just walked over, knocked on the door. She opened, he goes, "Hey, I'm going out of town for a few weeks. I need someone to dog sit my dog for me. Will you do it for me?" This lady, she's not a dog person, so she looks at that guy and goes, "No." So he really wasn't listening. He just kind of handed her his key and goes, "All you have to do is you have to feed the dog, play with it a little bit, just for, the couple weeks until I get back. That's all I need you to do." And then he leaves. And so this lady's kind of holding his key, like, really, he did not listen to me when I said I did not want to take care of his dog. But for the next few days, she goes in to his apartment, feeds the dog, plays with it, takes care of it, and then after this couple of days, she walks in one day and she goes, "Here, puppy, come on, come here." And the dog didn't answer her. So she goes looking for the dog, right? She goes into the bedroom and sees the dog laying on the bed. She thinks the dog's asleep, so she goes to wake it up. She goes, "Come here, puppy, come on, let's go eat." And the dog didn't wake up. She realizes that the dog wasn't asleep. The dog was dead. So she kind of goes into a panic mode because she's trying to think, what am I supposed to do with this dead dog? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then she calms down a little bit and goes, "Okay, I know, I'll just take the dog to the vet. It's not a big deal." Then she realizes she has a little bit of a problem. This lady's about 5'3", and the dog weighs about 100 pounds. She has absolutely no idea how she's going to get this dog to the vet. And then she comes up with an idea. She goes in the closet, grabs a suitcase, pulls the suitcase out and sets it on the bed, unzips it, manages to get the dog inside, sets it back up, and walks out the door with the dog. And so she heads to the subway because she doesn't have a car, and when she gets to the subway, she realizes she has another problem. She gets to the turnstile and starts to walk through, and the suitcase won't go through with her. And she can't pick it up, can't get over the suitcase because she just can't pick the dog up. So she steps out of the turnstile, and she starts thinking, she's trying to figure out how she's going to get this dog to go through. And then a guy walks up to her, and he's seemingly nice.
He walks up, he goes, "You look like you're having a little bit of trouble. What you got there?" And this lady, not wanting to say that she had a dead dog in her suitcase, because let's be honest, who's going to be like, "Oh, you know I have a dead dog." Yeah, you know. She looks at him and she thinks for a second, she goes, "Electronics. Just bought them." Which is really not the smartest thing to say when you're in New York. So I don't know why she said that. And he goes, "Okay, well, how about this? I'll help you out. You can walk through the turnstile, and I'll pick the suitcase up and hand it to you once you get on the other side." The lady looks at him and goes, "Okay." She walks through the turnstile and turns around. And I'm sure some of you can probably guess what she saw. She sees this guy who's taking off with this suitcase behind him. And she, since she didn't even want the dog to begin with, she just kind of looks at him and goes, and she just walks off because she's fine with it. Because she's like, "Hey, no more dead dog for me. Yay!" But can you imagine this guy, though, when he gets back to his little hideout with all of his friends, he sets the suitcase on the counter, he's like, "Guys, I just hit the jackpot, okay? I got all these electronics in this bag," and then he unzips it and goes the flap open and sees a dead dog. Like, that is not what he was expecting. But I guess the moral of the story is just, do the right thing so you don't end up with the dead dog in the suitcase. But one of the most ragged times in my life was the summer that I was 9 years old. I was bouncing back and forth between my club volleyball tournaments and late night doubleheaders with my PE softball team. Now, my foot had been hurting for a while, but I didn't want to tell my parents because A, I didn't want to take the chance of them taking me out, not letting me play, and B, which I thought to be the more realistic situation, and it's just growing pains, you'll be fine, suck it up. So I didn't tell them until a couple months later. But when I finally told them, they were like, "Well, might as well go ahead and get it checked out." They got me a doctor's appointment. And so the day after a softball game, I head to the doctor, and I found out that I had 3 stress fractures and an extra bone in my right foot. Well, I mean, I knew that it wasn't life-threatening, and I knew that it was going to happen regardless, because obviously you can't just avoid an extra bone. It just kind of happens. But I'll be honest, it really wasn't that easy to see what I did have and all the things I did have to be thankful for. So, in a way, I can see how King David is telling us to trust in God, just as I should have trusted my parents to take me to tell them sooner. And so, now, it doesn't really matter whether we're rich or poor, whether we're young or old. God, He loves us equally. Like, He cares for us equally. And it doesn't really matter. Active members of the church, someone like the preacher or a youth director, even the most religious people, sometimes have to be reminded that they need to take their problems to God. All of us, every single one of us, think of our problems as these pathetic little rags, and that they're not that big of a deal. And so we try to solve our problems ourselves. And they end up piling up, and they turn from one small rag into a huge quilt of problems. And that's obviously not very good. And I know all of you can remember when we were little kids, building up these huge quilt forts and grabbing our teddy bears and cuddling up with them under a huge pile of blankets and thinking of it as our refuge. A place where nothing and no one can get to us without a secret password. But now, as we've all left our days of childhood, we can all see how that was a false sense of security. How anyone can really get to us. And so now, we can realize that the only way to be really secure is to rip off our covers and let God take care of our monsters and boogeymen for us. And so as we read, He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. And my honor depends on God. He is my refuge. While reading that, honor is a word that caught my attention. Growing up as the child of a coach, I've always grown up hearing my mama say to her players, "As soon as we leave this campus, you not only represent our school, but you represent our program. Do not make us look bad." And so now I'd like to give you all a moment to think, Whose child or whose player are we? How do we make God look? Do we treat other people with respect? Do we trust in God? Do we reach out to our neighbors? Here in church, do you ever take a little bit of a risk and go up to someone you've never met before and maybe introduce yourself or try to start a conversation with them? As I was reviewing these questions, I realized that I don't do this on a consistent basis. I just don't. And even though I hate homework as much as the next person, I'd like to give all of you an assignment. Just always try to do your best so that you don't end up with dead dogs, wrapped in quilts, stuck in suitcases. Thank you.